Well, Nigeria 2015 studios here on Channels Television. We'll still have Dr. Dele Ashiru with us here in our Lagos studios. And we have Eseme Eyibo in our Abuja studios live. He was a former member of the National Assembly, specifically the spokesperson at that time at the Federal House of Representatives. And, well, we'd like to welcome you formally for joining us in our studios, Nigeria 2015. How did this whole election pan out for you as a politician and a statesman?
The outcome or the sense of the results to me was a prophecy foretold. That the attitude of the players has gone further to deepen the maturity and the indispensability of democracy. And as a state, which of course is premised on democracy and social justice, the outcome has gone further to strengthen our faith in democracy. And more importantly, the outcome with the attitude of the president, he has taken the win of the show, because one, without waiting for the results to be announced or to be formally the winner to be formally declared, Mr. President went ahead, admitted, called General Buhari, congratulated him, and that has doused so much tension, and he has booked himself in the place of history. And if you ask me or students of history in the days ahead, from post-independence till death, Jonathan has turned out to be the winner of our democracy. And Buhari also did something very important that must be mentioned here. By informing all his supporters and those associated with him to shun violence, molestation, and doing anything which will be ultra-violent. And the action of these two men generally is very welcome, and he has done so much for our democracy. But for PDP, the election was generally contested, PDP against itself. So APC rather benefited from it in terms of the votes. But for the election, it was PDP versus itself.
Please, can you explain how PDP fought itself in this election?
Well, you know clearly that PDP had an amalgam of too many generals, too many centurions, you know, in this war with very few army, very few soldiers. And any war that the generals are more than the soldiers, you're definitely going to have crisis of initiatives, crisis of discretion, and crisis of strategies. And you all know that PDP had an opportunity in this country to become a resource pool, to become a nursery for future leadership recruitment. But it missed that opportunity by turning the management of the political party, as it were, into a franchise for a few persons who wanted to use the political platform to rehabilitate themselves. And the consequence of it is what we are witnessing today. That was witnessed in the internal democracy of the party, where there were so many emperors who emerged from various angles, you know, to subvert the internal democracy of the party. And Mr. President is a very good man, I must say that. But unfortunately, he was surrounded by people who were not given to strategic communication, engaging Nigeria. People who thought that the new Nigeria, but unfortunately, didn't study it.
Mr. Eyibo, very quickly, let's explore another angle. We still have Dr. Ashiru in the house. He's a political scientist. We'll come back and ask him some few questions. But for you, tell us when we talk about men around leaders, in this case, men around the president, especially President Jonathan, because this can as well help us as we move forward, as the president-elect should also be careful just in case there are mistakes. What kind of mistakes do leaders make when they listen to the people that they have elected to represent them in different spheres of endeavor in governance, to the extent that do they really lose touch of the people themselves?
Leadership is a responsibility, and in every responsibility, it must be accounted for. Now, Mr. President, I can confess, performed so well. But when you perform without informing, it becomes a problem. And that has thrown to fore again the issue of the leadership recruitment process. Now, by law, for you to become the president of Nigeria, you must win 35% of the votes in 24 states, meaning that you must win, we have 6 geopolitical zones, meaning that you must win 25% vote minimum in 4 geopolitical zones. And I expected the managers of the political situation to be able to study the time and go out to engage the Nigerian public, the Nigerian people, on strategies and initiatives that will bring value addition into the electioneering. But unfortunately, the president's men were acting like opposition. They were doing what opposition is supposed to do. The opposition will be churning out while they will be replying. But that's a matter for another day. But I can tell you today, PDP has issued a fantastic handout, political handout to APC. So if APC are very good students of leadership, they will use that PDP handout to be able handbook to study the politics and the behavioral patterns of this country and the cultural sensibilities of every segment of this society. And to do that will become an issue for the days ahead.
Well, do you agree with him in that respect, saying that the battle was between APC, beg your pardon, PDP and itself?
Well, that's absolutely correct. That's and very perceptive too. But I want to contextualize it by saying that it was the president against himself. Because if we are good students of history, we will recall that in the president's bid to get a second term, he left no turn unstoned.
No stone unturned.
No turn unstoned. I'm using that, you know, because he successfully and deliberately decimated the party in such a way that, you know, you think that he alone can conduct the election and win the election all over the country. Look at the skirmishes in Adamawa, in Benue, in Bauchi, in, you know.
How did the president decimate the party? I mean, the skirmishes in Adama and, of course, in other states.
Look,
how is the president that caused?
Once you are suspected not to be supporting the president's re-election bid, you are marked out until you are thrown out of the PDP. And only a party can win an election when it is well organized. So the point I'm making is that a party divided, you know, against itself will not only win election, we can never win any battle. So they were not conscious of the fact that elections are coming and you need the support of all and sundry. If you look at the voting pattern in this election and you compare with that of 2011, you find out that even where PDP made very good showing in 2011, they were all lost to the opposition party.
Well, yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but I was going to go to, you know, Honorable Eseme Ibo to ask him whether or not he will still support the use of the card reader. I know that we're still talking about this issue of whether the PDP was really at war with itself, or that really now we have an opposition, as it were, or a coalition. We now have another political party we can call a rival political party. But we'll come to that question again. I just want to get your sense. Do you think that the card readers should still be used for the forthcoming governorship elections?
Well, I can tell you that the use of the card reader technology was one of those very fundamental essence of the transparent, free and fair election, other than Mr. President's disposition to free and fair election. So I am of the opinion that you must use card reader. Now, why I want the card reader is that it's going to minimize violence. People, you have to come to the place and do your accreditation. And after doing the accreditation, we know the numbers of persons who are accredited. So that's not a situation of a particular unit that you have 200 registered voters. Then by the time they want to count the votes, the total number of votes, you now have 2,000 people and all that. It undermines the process. So I want the use of card reader, regardless of the challenges. We all know and too well that it is a starting point. You could just buy a car today from the auto shop, brand new car. Just as you step out, it breaks down on the road. So you must start somewhere. And where we are starting, I think the failure rate that I understand is 0.25%. It's encouraging.